In the previous video we looked at the magic wand tool, but the magic wand tool works well when your background is all one colour or different shades of colour, and in this case we've got a little bit of brown with the dirt and there's lots of variation of the green. So if we click the magic wand tool, and I've given it a high tolerance and I've switched off contiguous, which means it will find any green anywhere, and I click, it doesn't really work. If I add to that, even that, it's chosen bits and pieces everywhere, so it's not the right selection tool for this picture. So I need a new selection tool, and the one I'm going to use is the quick selection tool. And if you don't see the quick selection tool, it's because it's under the selection brush. So you click, hold down, and then you choose the quick selection tool. And the reason why the quick selection tool is going to work is because this orchid has very distinct lines. If it was out of focus, it wouldn't work very well, because what happens is that when you click on an area, which I'm going to do now, Photoshop Elements checks areas of similar colour, and it's managed to find the edge very easily, but if it was a blurred edge it wouldn't be able to find it. That's the first leap. I click around, I hold down the mouse, and each time I select a different area. Now if you look at my undo history, every time I click and I put my mouse up, it makes a different action. So if you make a mistake and I click there, for example, I can go to my undo history and I can go one back. That's why it's quite useful to do just a little bit at a time, because each time you do it, it will create another undo. It's done a pretty good job of that, but there's some areas in between which I don't want. And here is where I hold down the Alt key, and by the way, you must make sure at the top here you have the plus selected, because it means that every time you click it will actually add to the selection. Now if I want to minus, I hold down the Alt key, it becomes a minus, and I can just click in these green areas. I've got my Alt key or the Option key on the Mac held down, and each time I click I can take away this green area. And now I need to make my brush a little bit smaller, so it's the left hand bracket. Again, hold down the Alt key, click in this area, I think I've pretty much got this one area left. But I would actually like to include the stem, and that's going to be quite difficult because it's a similar colour to the rest of the green, so the quick selection brush isn't going to work very well in that case. So then I use the selection brush. And this is what I call my repair tool. And I use the selection brush to repair often when I use other selection brushes, because you can use more than one selection brush in one go. You can use several selection brushes. So now I can go through those extra areas, the stem, and I can add those to the selection. And if I make a mistake, again I can add here where I didn't do a very good job of taking away. And if I make a mistake, so if I pull out like that by mistake, again it's the opposite. It's the Alt key, and you hold it down. Let's add a bit here. And now I'm pretty happy with my selection. First of all, I might save the selection, so I go to Select, Save Selection, Orchid. And this means I can bring back the selection at any time if I make a mistake. So to put the selection on a new layer, it's Control-J or Command-J. So if I switch off the background layer, there I have my orchid. Now I'd like to add that to another picture. So I'm going to open another picture, one that I've opened before. And this was also taken in the same area. So I'm going to go to my project bin at the bottom. If it's not open, double click it to close, click it to open. I click on my orchid and I drag it in. Then I go to the Move tool and I can move it and resize it. And that's about how I want it. To combine these two pictures and make them look more like one picture, I'm going to put a texture on top, but I'm going to use it as a mask. I bring up my mask or my texture, go back to my picture, and I drag it on. And I'm going to use a blend to blend this with the layers below. And the blend I'm going to use is Screen. And what Screen does, it keeps the white and the black disappears so that the picture can show through. And now I have the picture that I'm going to display.